Hi. Have you ever wished you could just end it all? Most people have been there at one point or another. And stay tuned because there's hope and there's good news for this. I'm Diane, your host of Epic Conversations, and we have Mark Cattelona returning back again. And we are talking about his ministry called Operation Watchover. Now, Mark is a husband of 35 years, and he has 3 grown children. I met Mark at Andrew Womack Ministries, and where he's presently working. And we have some powerful solutions to these problems. So, Mark, thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
And would you like to tell us about some statistics of who's got this problem of wanting to end it all and commit suicide? Let's talk about it the way it really is.
Yep.
The thoughts of wanting to commit suicide.
Yep. And so, it's a national problem. It's everywhere. But what I wanted to mention today is about locally here. Being in Colorado, we have 2 of the 5 branches, here. We've got 5 bases. We actually have 3 right here in Colorado Springs.
Military bases.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. We've got 2 Air Force bases, and then we've got an Army base. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Colorado itself, because that's where
God's called you for this
amen.
season.
And so if I could just look at my page here. So in 2017, there was 403,000 military personnel in this state.
Okay.
Okay. This statistic is what really grabbed me, when I started getting into this project. There's a 46% higher rate of suicide in Colorado versus the rest of the country.
What? 46% higher
For vets.
for
Correct.
veterans in the okay.
Yep.
Why is that?
Well, when I was doing the research, it's most of the reasoning was because of isolation or because it's a rural state. And if you're in this kind of a mindset where you don't fit in, doesn't the enemy take us that way, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And he wants to get us isolated. And so when these folks are in high populated areas, they know there's people around, so they don't really have that isolation component as strong as they would in a rural area where the enemy gets us isolated, like we're the only one with the problem. There's no solution. And I believe, and that's what the studies showed, that it's because it's a rural state, and there's a good population of vets here too.
And that isolation is a powerful thing because even with the COVID situation that it's like it forces people to be isolated, and that alone can cause depression. And that's the beginning.
That's a perfect example. Kids are experiencing this through this COVID.
Yeah.
They're not with their buddies or their girlfriends, and they're just not living a normal life right now.
Because we've been, as human beings, God created us for fellowship, for relationship, for each other, to work in unity in a body.
Yeah.
And when we're isolated, it's not a good thing.
Not good.
That's okay.
So that's probably what's pushing that rate as high as it is. So in 2016, the rate per 1,000 in the country was 30 individuals per 100,000.
Oh, okay.
I think I said 1,000, but I meant per 100,000. In our state here, it's 56 per 100,000.
56 compared with?
To 30. It's almost double.
Yeah, that's right.
In Colorado.
Almost double.
Versus the rest of the country. The other thing with Colorado, veterans or military personnel make up 20% of the suicides, yet it's less than 10% of the population.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Quite higher than civilian rates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And so, I mean, that's my goal with this is to reach here. You know, let's get started right here. We've
So-
got a problem here in this
Mhm.
state.
Operation Watchover is
Mhm.
going to help the veterans
Yeah.
in the state of Colorado.
Yep, that's where we're targeting first
That's the first
to
target, right?
reach there.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
hmm
And tell us about some of the experiences that, like, the officer had, and what goes in the mind of these people to
Mhm.
want that they say, I'm done, I'm out of here.
Yep.
And, you know, everybody's had those thoughts, but talk a little bit more about that, because
Yeah.
there is a solution that we don't have to receive them or act on them,
Correct.
but we have to know that there's hope.
Yep. And so I think it's good you mentioned that. We're going to be an organization that's not connected to the military.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to be outside of the military, and there's a reason for that. We are going to be vets.
Mhm.
It's going to be veteran driven, because we've lived, and we can share that component with them.
Mhm.
But the story that comes to mind to me, and being in the military, there's no
Mhm.
way I'm going to go into my commander and say, "Hey, sir, I'm suicidal. I have guns. I have." It's not going to be a good career after that topic. Okay.
Oh, so that's
these guys,
mhm.
it's a hard thing, and there's actually a situation that's happened in the spring where a serviceman went in and told them that he was suicidal, and that,
Oh.
you know, I don't know what else he said. I know that he said that he put in for a mission overseas, an overseas commission that he desired to do, and he came back the first time and talked to the commander's secretary and said, you know, have you heard anything? Am I being looked at as a possible candidate? And she goes, no word yet, but don't worry about it. It's okay. And then he, a couple of weeks go by, he comes back in and speaks to her again, and he said, I'm not going to get it, am I? It's because I told him I was suicidal. And she said, no, don't think like that. You did the right thing, And so he left that day, and he came back again. I don't know how many weeks later, or if it was a full month or whatever, but he said, have you heard anything? Am I in the running, or what's up? She goes, nothing yet, but, don't worry. He goes, it's because I told him, isn't it? This man went home and took his own life because he thought his military career was not going to, it was over because of what he said. And
So the fear that he had, that if I tell my supervisor, my manager, my whoever is above him, if I tell them how I feel, they're not going to promote me.
no,
They're not going to advance my career.
guess of that.
So there's the fear that if they say something, so there even creates more isolation. So how are they going to not? I mean, who are they going to tell?
I understand the military's trying their best to help the situation, but it's like a catch-22.
Oh.
I mean, they are trying. I'm not disputing that.
Right.
It's just,
But who are they going to talk to? They
Right.
have to be able to
mhm,
tell somebody so they don't feel isolated. Sometimes when you expose a lie, you go, oh, the light begins to shine
yeah, ma'am,
and it can go away.
can clear
But
up.
if they hold it in and don't tell anyone, then in this case, he told someone
Mm-hmm.
and then he didn't get the promotion.
Right.
So what do you have to say about how would you have ministered to a family after that? What do you say to them?
Well, you're going to pray with them.
Yes, oh yeah.
You're going to speak the word, what the word says. Claim healing. I know it's early on in the grief process, But
But it didn't have to end that way,
No.
did it?
no.
How could it have ended?
Well,
Can you rewrite the end of the story?
yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Because how I want to see it end,
Yes.
and the Lord wants to see it end, is
Yes.
these people call a number,
Mhm.
ask for some help, ask for some prayer, and that leads them off the bridge or off the ledge or to put the gun down for that moment. And after we're done going through this, which I think you're going to have me back again to cover the stages, how we'll get
Yes,
through this.
we are going to cover that.
There's going to be, at the end of that, there's some discipleship, there's some teachings, there's some things that they need to learn about themselves. Being a three-part being, spirit, soul, and body, so they
Right.
can get healing for each one of those. And so that, like I said, I'll save that for the next section, but the phone call will lead to that. The phone call will eradicate the enemy's lies.
And I believe the ending to that story, that if that person, even though they told their superior, if they had gotten help, they would have demonstrated and proven that they could have victory over it.
Amen.
And then they could have been considered for a better mission
I agree.
or a promotion.
All things are possible.
And their career could have stayed intact. But they had to have got help.
Exactly. Yep. And
That's good.
that's such an important part, because they're in a place where they don't think there's a solution. They can't find a solution, like you're saying. But you and I know that all things are possible
With
through God.
Amen. Perfect. Thank you. That's right. With God, all things are possible. It doesn't have to end in suicide. There is help. And we'll have some more information coming up. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Mark has one more episode. In the meantime, have an epic day in the Lord.